Well, today is the first official day of me being homeless. Yep, you heard that right. After 12 years of owning a home, as of today, I am officially homeless. Hey. My name is Destiny Thomas. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to share how a 40-day prayer challenge led to me being homeless. Yes, a prayer challenge. Okay. So, a little bit of backstory. I came into this new year, 2025, and I was like, God, I am just so ready to surrender in ways I haven't surrendered in a really long time. Just a little bit of backstory. In 2017, the Lord instructed me to leave my good paying corporate job after finally having a baby, after battling infertility, with no plan B, no plan A, really, no plan at all, just trusting what I heard and following Him. And so, preparing for 2025, the Lord started leading me to go to old journal entries, watch my live video of when I left my job, look at old posts around that time. And He just kept saying, I'm doing a redo, but this time bigger. Are you ready? Right. And I was like, sure. I don't know what that means, God, but whatever. Okay. And so, I am a part of a prayer community, and we were talking about, as of the new year, doing a 40-day prayer challenge. We were going to read the book The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, and we were going to do the 40-day prayer challenge, right? And so I was super excited, just on fire, ready for whatever the new year had in store. Me and the Lord had sat down together and created what I like to call the How Are You Keeping Your Word to Yourself list for 2025. And so I had been struggling for a really long time with over serving, right? I was serving in a capacity that wasn't healthy for me. I was serving in a capacity that was playing God in people's life. And I was serving in a way that was making me sacrifice what God had promised me and my family, to just be everything to everybody all the time. And the Lord said, coming into the new year, He said, Destiny, why do you hate yourself so much? And I was like, that's a bit strong, but continue, I guess. And he was like, I was like, I don't hate myself. He was like, but you don't love yourself. And he was like, because if you really love yourself, you would do a better job of keeping your word to yourself. When you say you're going to make different eating choices, you will make it. When you say you're going to work out, you would work out. When you say you're going to drink more water, you would drink more water. Because if you give your word to anybody else, you keep it. You will go through hell and high water to keep your word to other people, but you will not do it for yourself. And I couldn't argue with him. He was right. Like, if I was like had the flu, but I told someone I would make sure they get to work, I would call somebody, I would Uber them, I would do whatever it took to make sure I kept my word to them. But I wasn't doing that for Destiny. And so there was a couple of main topics in my life that me and the Lord were going to focus on for 2025. One was keeping my word to myself, so eating better, being more intentional about studying the Word of God, not just reading it, but studying and meditating on it. So my prayer community and I are reading the book for the entire year and get together Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 a.m. to discuss it. I started exercising. There was just a lot. My business, we got systems in place and organization. And so fast forward, like I said, we decided as a prayer group to do the 40-day prayer challenge. Now, backstory, my husband and I had purchased our home in 2013. We were not planning on selling our home anytime soon. We actually had talked about selling it in another 2 years. Because we were starting to outgrow it. We now have 3 children. Glory be to God. After infertility, the Lord proved them wrong 3 times. Okay. But we now had 3 children. It was a 3 bedroom, 1 bath, all them kids, child, ghetto. Okay. But we were like, we want to make smart decisions. Our mortgage was very, very favorable. We got it when interest rates were still in the threes. Okay. They're definitely nowhere near that today. And so we just wanted to make the best financial decision for our family, and before we just jumped out there and got something bigger. And so, coming into the 40-day prayer challenge, you have to write your Jericho. And for those who are not familiar with the Word of God, there's a story in the Bible where they had to walk around the wall of Jericho 7 times, and they were praising and worshiping, and the wall fell. And so for the prayer challenge, your Jericho is something that you're believing God to change, or for you to get the glory in after the 40 days. So when we started the challenge, I was like, I don't really have a Jericho. Like, my life is pretty good right now. God has just been shifting and moving, and I'm just really excited, really in expectation. And I kept hearing the Lord say, make your Jericho the cell of your house. And I was like, am I tweaking? Like, I'm not planning on selling my house. Like, what are you talking about, God? But I knew what I heard, and I was like, okay. So I wrote it down on my calendar. It's not behind me now because I'm homeless and my home is gone. But I had it on my calendar, and it just sat there, and it was like, my Jericho is the cell of the speedy cell of my house, right? I was like, okay. And so literally from the day I put that, things just started to go very, very, very fast. Next thing I know, we had the house up for sale by January 10th. I believe it was January 10th. That's when we put our house up for sale. I have my phone here. Let me actually give you real tea, okay? Because I don't want to make anything up. But this process was absolutely crazy, y'all. I took a picture of it because I was like, oh my gosh, like, your house is up for sale. January 10th. So I was right. Okay. So we put our house up for sale on January the 10th. And before we closed on April 1st, so we just closed yesterday. And so the house is fully gone. And from January 10th through April 1st, or about March, we had received in total probably like 6 offers, right? And some were really good, some were really right? But what I learned, sorry, that's my dog. But what I learned during this process is to trust God throughout the entirety of the process. There was definitely some hard moments. You know, we said we were prepared for what comes with putting your house up for sale, but we weren't. Like, you got to leave when people want to come. They can take forever. We got kids and a dog. Like, it just was a lot. But what I will say I learned the most out of the process was to trust God. Because we got an offer, and it was actually really good. It was at a point where we were kind of over the process, and we were going to accept the offer. And I said, God, this offer doesn't align with some of the things I asked from you when it came to the new homeowners. I said, and so God, if this offer, and we were literally about to go to close, like we were at the inspection stage, or the appraisal stage. And I said, God, if this offer is not from you, then I ask that you tear it apart. Like, I don't care. Move Diamond. I just ask that you shut it all down. And literally the next day, everything started to fall apart. And so, and he just kept saying, the counterfeit comes before the real thing. Be patient and wait. The counterfeit comes before the real thing. Be patient and wait. And so we were just patient. Now during this process, we're applying for rentals because we were like, okay, well, we want to rent for a year, and then decide if we want to still stay where we live in Virginia, or if we want to relocate somewhere, because we have quite a bit of options. You know, our kids are young. We do want to allow them to explore the world in different ways that we maybe didn't as much when we were growing up. So we don't want to be rushed into making any decisions. So we're looking for rentals, but things were just not working out. And I just was like, okay, God, what are we doing? And he was like, you guys are going to end up going to a hotel, and I will give the next instruction after that. And so it came with a lot of emotions. Like, we got this house, we closed on our house when we purchased it when I think I was about to be 23 years old. And we did not have any children. It was just myself and my husband. And we're now leaving the house after 12 years. Our kids were born in the hospital, came right to that house. We're raised in that house. We had, I left my full-time job at that house. We had visitors and people that stayed with us. We like it had so many memories. And if I can be completely transparent, my original intention was to keep the house so I could give it to my children or rent it out as and make it a additional income property. But one thing I will say is God kept saying going into 2025, Destiny, you have to be willing to let things go in order for me to give you what I have for you. But he said just to be patient and wait. And there was a lot of moments that were uncomfortable. We were applying for different rentals, and they were just not working out. It just was absolutely crazy. But this was the book that I read, Draw the Circle, the 40-Day Prayer Challenge by Mark Batterson. Like I said, I read The Circle Maker first, and we then did Draw the Circle with the Prayer Challenge book. And it just was like, y'all, I think I'm still in shock a little bit that it happened so quickly, and that we don't really know what's next. We just are trusting in the Lord and believing that he has greater in store for us. Like I said, it is very similar to when he called me out of my corporate job. I had no plan B. I had no job, no nothing. I didn't have anything, but I had a burden that was what he was calling me to do. And so I just obeyed. And it was definitely a lot of moments where I felt crazy, where I felt stupid, where I felt like, just, what are you doing with your life, Destiny? You're getting way too old. I was 28, 29 when I left my job. Like, you're getting way too old to be just quitting your job, right? After all those years in that good pay. But I just knew what God was calling us to do, or calling me to do at that time. And it's the same this time. I think what makes this one better is like my husband is like fully on board. Before, when I left my job, he was like, this sounds crazy, but I know you don't play about your relationship with God, so I'm going to trust you in that. But this time he's just like, okay, all right. He's looking up houses. Like, we're like, it's like, when I tell you, this situation has gotten my children excited. It has made our focal point back being our family, and what are we doing? What is our plans for the future? And we're just really, really, really excited. And so the thing that was even cooler was when we got this offer that we actually decided to accept, and they sent the information over in regards to the closing date. I was like, April 1st. What's with April 1st? And I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, literally, we moved into this house on April 1st, 2013. I was like, so it will literally be the 12th year that we would have been here, that we're actually leaving. And I just knew that was a God thing. I just knew, because the Lord kept saying he was doing a new thing. The scripture, Isaiah 43:19, I believe it is. But he just kept saying, Destiny, I'm doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? I want to pull it up to make sure it's right. 43. Yes. Isaiah 43, verse 18 through 19. Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. And so he kept saying that going into 2025, ending 2024. And I was like, and he kept giving me Amos 9:13 through 15. It will happen so fast your head will swim. And I was like, okay, God, what is going on? And so for the closing to be on April 1st, I just was like, and I just want to say, like, God answers your unspoken prayers. So when we decided to put the house up for sale, there were just some thoughts in my head that I was kind of like telling them to God, but not really, right? And so I was like, God, I really want the person who gets our house to be a family. Like, I don't want it to go to, because our area where we lived, it is a very, very high sought after area. There are a lot of investors that like to buy the houses in that area because it's an older community. And so a lot of investors like to purchase the house, redo it, and sell it for quite a bit more than the original value, which that's their business. But I was like, God, I really want the people that purchase our home to not be an investor. I want it to be a family, because this house just is so special to us. Like, I mean, I've warred in that house, I've interceded for my family in that house. Like, you know, it's just so special. So I was like, God, I really want the people that purchase our house to be a family. This is maybe their first home or maybe their second home, and they just want something for their family. So that was one thing I said to God. The second thing I said to God is I was like, I would love to meet the people who buy our house. That's not very common because obviously the house is for sale. People come and see it with their realtor. You're not really there. But hey, I can make any request known to God because he's my daddy and he's a good one, the perfect one, in fact. And so I was like, I would love to meet the people who purchase our house, and I would love for the offer to be a good offer, right? And when I tell you everything I asked God for, he did it. It was so cool. So we got a notification that somebody wanted to see the house. And we left. We took the kids to the park, and we came back. And when we came back, their child had obviously liked the kids' room because they had pulled out all the toys and they left their tablet. And my kids were like, Mom, there's a tablet here and it's not ours. And so they brought it out, and we called our realtor and we were like, hey, somebody left a tablet. Like, can you find out who? Because we had quite a bit of showings that day. So we didn't know if it was the last people or the people before them. So we called our realtor, and she found out whose tablet it was, and she was like, oh, they're on their way to get it. So I was like, is it the realtor? And she was like, no, it's the people. And so the gentleman, my husband, was at the house. So he was outside in the backyard, and he was like, oh, I want to meet the people who came to see, like, just, what they thought. And so the gentleman knocks on the door, and my husband goes to the door, and my husband's like, here's the tablet. And the gentleman's like, are you the seller? And my husband's like, huh? And he was like, are you the one selling the house? And my husband's like, oh, yeah, yeah. He was like, we really, really love this house. He was like, my daughter, I have two kids. He's like, my oldest daughter, she goes right to the high school up the street, so we wouldn't have to switch her schools. She was like, and as you could see, the younger one really loved the toys and loved the room. Oh, and that was the other thing I said, God, I want the people who purchase the house to be a family that really, would love our house. I said, I want the people who purchase the house to be able to meet them. I said, I want their offer to be good. And I said, I also want, when they enter the door, it to feel like home to them. So when we came in and seen the toys everywhere and the bed, like they were in the bed, in the kid's bed, I just got this good feeling. So then when we found the tablet, I was like, I hope that's the same people, right? And so he was like, yeah, we really, really love the house. Like, this will be our first home. And we like, this is one of the best houses we've seen in this area. And he was like, because at this time when they came to see our house, we already had two offers on the table. And so our realtor had informed every realtor that came as of that date that we were making a decision by the next morning, which we were. Like, we weren't finagling, like we were. And so we were telling them, like, hey, you're going to have to put an offer in today. So if you like it, be willing to put in an offer. And so he was like, please, we know you already have two offers, but please consider ours, right? And his wife rolls down the window in the car with the baby. She's like, hey, we're waving. And I was like, I told my husband, I was like, it was something like, they're it, right? Now, at this time, we don't know what their offer is. And we do already have two offers. So I said to my husband, he was like, I really like them. I really think they're it too. I was like, but the hard question is if they give us an offer lower than the two we already have, do you like them enough to accept the offer? And he was like, unfortunately not. This is business. We like them. We never met the other people, so we don't really know them at all, And I was like, okay. And so they came in full asking price, the bells, the whistles, the changs, okay? And I just like, God, like, you are such a good father. Like, you're such You're so loving, you're so caring, you're so thoughtful. Like, it just was amazing. It just has been an amazing process. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to we're now in a hotel, and um praying that we have some more direction within the next day or two, um, in regards to what we are going to do. But we have so much peace. The kids are so excited. And we just know that God is doing a new thing, and we perceive it. We know it. And I just am so excited how this 40-day prayer challenge led me to homelessness, but it led me to just excitement and fresh wind, fresh anointing. Um, yeah, like I'm so excited. So please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because I'm going to be going live consistently to share this journey, whether it's shorts or actual vlogging. um I'm just excited. I'm just so excited. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was saying, you don't realize how bound you are until you're free. And this whole focus of like loving myself and taking care of myself is what led me on the journey to doing the prayer challenge, and really just seeking God in a more intimate way. And not that I wasn't seeking him before, but I wasn't, if I could be completely honest, I had stopped really seeking God for me as his daughter. I was seeking him for how he wanted me to show up in my ministry, or how he wanted me to show up for this one, or how he wanted me to do, the next event. But he kept saying, Destiny, you are my daughter and I love you. There are things I have in store for you and your husband and your children that you're going to miss out on by being everything to everyone. And so I actually just started this prayer challenge again, because I'm just super excited to see what he's going to do in the next 40 days. But I just pray that this blesses someone. I pray that this encourages you to obey God, to do the crazy with him. Like I said, he had me leave my job in 2017, and this year will make 8 years as a full-time entrepreneur. I have a full coaching business. I host retreats. I have a women's community. Like I said, we host Monday and Wednesday 6 a.m. prayer. Like, what God has been able to do from just one yes, one act of obedience has truly changed my entire life. And he wants to do the same for you. So if you are interested in joining us for 6 a.m. prayer and reading through the Bible with us, make sure you text 21 days, so 21DAYS, to 833-340-0069. And if you want to find out more about me and my community and everything I offer, you can go to www.realizingdestiny.com, and that's realizingdestiny.com. And definitely go to Amazon or your local library and get this book, Draw the Circle, the 40-day prayer challenge. There's fasting, there's praying, there's intimacy, and there's transformation. Until next time.